Okay, so today I'm going to show you guys how to start this painting of our cup. Now, I think the important thing to know with painting is that it is a process just like any other piece of art that you do. There are certain points that you get, especially I think with painting, that you feel like it looks like a little bit like a hot mess, and you just got to keep at it. So basically what we're going to do today is we're going to just start by hopefully establishing a really good value structure, and then we'll deal with things like blending and just refining the color and stuff a little bit later. Okay, so we're just going to start with value structure first. So just a few things. So here's my board. As you guys can see, this is my drawing. First thing I want to do, so I just want to, and I would advise you guys, just kind of grab a eraser and try to lighten up your pencil lines. Even though acrylic is an opaque paint, it never fails to surprise me how these pencil lines still show through even dark paint sometimes. So just go over and kind of lighten up your pencil lines. I don't want to necessarily erase them away because I still need to see where everything is. But I do want to lighten it. I'm trying to use the light on the hover cam today, but it is kind of giving off a glare, so we'll see how long I keep this light on. I am going to go ahead and try to erase away. It's not going to go all the way away, but I'm going to try to erase away that back line, so to speak, of my ellipse for the very bottom of my cup. Technically, I'm not supposed to see that, so I really don't want to take my chances with that. And I'm going to also do the same thing with the middle ellipse, is go ahead and try to get rid of that back line because I don't need it anymore. So I served its purpose. I don't know if I like this light on. That's, oh. I kind of liked it without it. I think I'm going to leave the light off. Of course, now I'm putting a shadow on my piece. I can't see it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Light on or light off? What do you see better? Does that show up okay? Yeah? Okay. All right. So I'm not going to worry about my cast shadows yet. If I get to those, I'll probably erase those out right before I do them. Okay, so I've kind of lightened this up, but I can still see my drawing, so we're good. All right. So the next thing, I need all my painting supplies. So remember, guys, you know, you got your plate. You hopefully have all your paint kind of loaded in there. Looks kind of yellow, doesn't it? Ooh, okay. That might be better. All right, so here's my plate. Going to go ahead and grab my brush out of there. And remember, take that cap off of your brush and put it in your bag so that you don't lose it. Those little caps, they get lost really easily. And then just zip that bag up so it's in there and you know it won't get lost. You need to make sure you have your paper towel, bucket of water, and then I also have my sketchbook just off to the side, just on a random page. I'm going to use this to kind of test out some of my color swatches before I use them. So I want to test it out on my sketchbook before I actually put it on my project. So let me see if I can put that in there. I don't know. Put it off to the side. Okay. So remember that you guys should still be painting with your board sort of propped up. What's nice about these canvas boards is you can hold them in your hand. So you don't necessarily need to worry about having it on an easel or laying on your lap or anything like that. Just you can hold it in your hand. I am, however, going to be working flat on the table just for this video. So let's zoom this a little bit. Okay. So I think we're ready to start. So I'm going to start kind of creating my mixtures the same way that I did for the sphere. I want to create a few different sort of values to just get me started. So I probably want to make like a light, a medium, and a dark. And I'm still going to approach it again just the same way as the sphere. And I'm going to use complementary colors to help me darken the colors, not necessarily just go in with black. So my cup is green. So it's actually a lime green. So I have white, I have yellow, I have a light green, I have that phthalo green, the darker green, and I have that cad red deep that we used for the sphere. So I'm going to use those. So I'm going to start same way as my sphere. I'm going to go ahead and start by grabbing like a scoop of this white. Now, a lot of my piles that I had before are dry, so I can, if I want to. If the piles are dry, I can remix paint right on top there. I'm going to start by just grabbing about 2 scoops of white. So I'm going to make my lightest value. Technically my lightest value will be white, but I want to make kind of a light limey green. My brush is dry, so I'm going to get it wet. That's going to help with the paint. And then the next thing I'm going to do, because I have a lime green cup, I'm going to grab some yellow. And then again, I'm going to grab just a little dot of this green. Now, you guys don't have the same color cup as I do, so make the lighter version of your cup if you want to. Now, if you do have a lime green cup like I do, you'll probably be kind of doing the same thing I am. So there's a light lime green there. So I'm going to use that for my lightest. So again, make a light version of the color of your cup. Something you can use for your lights, and then something you can start with like that. Now I'm not gonna wash my brush because all the colors on my brush I'm technically going to use again. I want to make a medium version of that. So I'm just going to kind of wipe it off and make sort of like a medium value or medium tone. I'm going to start with a little bit of white, less white than I had before. I'm going to start with the yellow because again my cup's lime green. And I have 2 different greens here. I'm going to, I don't know. Painting's it's a lot of experimenting, so I'm just going to experiment here. I'm going to start with that same green I had before, just use more of it to make it darker, see where it gets me. And again, I want sort of a medium version. I'm going to add some more green in there. So again, I'm looking for a medium value. Going to keep playing with this until I'm kind of happy with it. So again, I want a light and a medium. Add just a little bit more. Now remember, grab your paint from the side of your paint pile, not from the middle. If you grab it from the middle, you're going to contaminate that pile with other colors. Now, if you're working on like day-old paint, sometimes just the top layer gets kind of like a shell on it. You can kind of break it open and there's nice wet paint underneath it. So I'm still kind of working on this. Now again, I do feel that medium value is the color I do rely on a lot for fixing things. So I'm going to make a pretty good batch of that. So I think that's a good start for my light, and that's a good start for my medium. I'm going to go ahead and wash my brush off, and I'm going to make a darker one. Now for this, I don't know. I do have this dark green, but I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to try to use, I don't know, I'm going to see what happens when I mix this green together with the red. So I'm going to start with just my base color here, the green. And I'm going to add, again, my cup's complement. So my cup, again, is lime green. So the complement of green is red. It is a cross from green on the color wheel. So I'm going to mix in the red with the green. And it should get darker. And it is. And again, it does have a tint of red to it, which is fine. And if you guys notice, I put your cups on top of a piece of construction paper that was its complement. So if your cup is blue, the complement of blue is orange. If you have a yellow cup, the complement of yellow is violet. Add just a little bit more red into that. Okay, so I kind of have a light, a medium, a dark. And are these the only colors I'm going to use to paint my cup? Absolutely not, but this is enough to kind of get me started. And I'm going to throw in a little bit of this dark green into here and see what that does. Ooh, I like that. But again, if you notice, I don't have any black on my palette, so I'm going to see if I can do this painting without any black. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to work on your mixtures. So we're mixing up 3 different values of our base color, just like we did with the sphere. Just this time you're using colors that reflect the color of your cup. And then keep in mind that even though I have only mixed 3, technically I have double that, even more than that, because I can use straight white, I can use straight yellow at times, I can use this straight light green. I have this phthalo green, and then I also have the red that I can use. So I have a lot of options here. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to work on that, and then once everybody's in a good place, then I'll show you guys how to start applying this to your painting. All right, so I want to show you guys this. So get this. So these are my color swatches, okay? So these are the 3 colors that I mixed up for my lime green cup. I made sort of a light lime green by mixing white, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of green together, the light green. I made my medium sort of value here by, I had a little bit of white still left on my brush, and then I added just a little bit of more white, little yellow, and a lot more green. And this dark green I created by mixing, again, this green and that red together. And that's how I got that. But these are my colors straight right up here. You can't see the white. Well, you kind of see it. It is actually a little yellow because I had some paint still on there. So I have white, I have straight yellow, I have that light green. This is the phthalo green, and then that's that red that I'm using to darken up. So I have all these colors to work with, okay? So the first thing, now everybody's a little different on how they like to start a painting. Some artists like to start with their darks first, and some artists like to start with their lights first. I do a little bit of both, I guess. So, and really, it's really whatever feels comfortable for you. But so what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to, I'm going to go ahead and take off this lid here so I can just work with this a little bit better. But what I'm going to do, again, I want to make sure my brush isn't too dry because this paint's real heavy. I'm going to go ahead and grab my light color that I'm using that I mixed up, and I'm going to use this to basically paint wherever I see the light hitting my cup. So I actually see a little bit hitting here, and again I'm looking at the shapes that I see the light creating. So again, I'm just going to start with my lightest color and just kind of put it wherever I see it. And anytime my paint kind of feels a little sticky or a little heavy or a little dry, I'm just going to dip just the very top of my brush into a little bit of water. I don't want to really wash it out. I'm just basically trying to find all these areas the light is hitting. And you can also too just pick up your canvas board if that feels comfortable for you. So I do find that it does help just to pick up the canvas and move it around. Actually really hard to kind of keep it all in one spot. And you'll notice that as you kind of put the paint down the first time, you'll see the texture of the canvas kind of coming through, and that's fine. We're just basically mapping out where these values need to go first. So I apologize to those of you who are watching this video, because I'm going to be picking up this canvas quite a lot. And again, if I know I need to kind of blend out, I'm going to, again, use that dry brushing technique where I kind of just drag the paint out. And it's just going to kind of hit just the top of that canvas so you can see it's not filling the tooth of the canvas completely, and that's fine. You can always go back and kind of paint over those areas if it needs to be more. Just blocking in right now. So I need to do all this side here. Now you may, once you kind of started painting this light value down on your canvas, maybe you decide it's not the right color mixture. You know, that's the nice thing about acrylic, is that you can go back, rethink your colors, make adjustments, and then just paint right back on top of it once it dries. But I'm just looking at all of the places that the light is hitting my cup, and I'm looking at the shapes that those lights, those highlights, and all that kind of stuff are making. So I'm looking at the shapes. It's all about shapes. These shapes look the way they look because the light in the room is hitting this particular cup. So if you ignore the shapes, you're going to get something different. So my light's coming from the right. So I'm going to see a lot of light areas here on the right side of my cup. And you can see also too that I saw that it's hitting the left side of the inside of my cup. And the light is hitting parts of my handle too. I am trying to keep my edge nice and clean, so when I'm close to it, I take my time. Don't want to rush it. And ideally, you can clean that up also too with the background if you need to. Just don't know if we're going to get to that part. So you can just see where I ended it, how it looks. Again, I'm dry brushing these areas just to kind of prep for blending. But some of these shapes, like especially around this handle, they're real sharp. They don't really blend out, so those shapes are pretty defined. Now once I get my lightest value sort of blacked in, then I'm probably going to move on. I probably will move on to my to my medium one, just like it did on the sphere. Now, if you notice, I am kind of avoiding the rim of my cup. I'm going to deal with that probably later. Yeah, I'm going to deal with that later. Okay. I'm going to pause this. This is kind of like my light shapes established. And then I'm going to pause this, give you guys a chance to kind of work on your lights, and then I'll show you how I add in the medium tones. All right, so I'm going to start adding I think I'm going to go into my medium color that I mixed, which is this one right here. So we'll see. Again, I never know exactly what to do until I start doing this stuff, so I am kind of figuring this out or winging it as I go. I could have a really good plan and idea in mind of how I want to approach stuff, but really, you know, all of that can kind of get revamped as soon as I start. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding in this medium. And I'm going to add this kind of right over top some of these borders of my light. I'm not going to worry too much about blending or making my blending look perfect. I'll start here on the inside of the cup. You guys will also see too that undertone, that burnt sienna that we used for our undertone and ground color, how that kind of shines through the paint. Does a really nice job of just giving yourself some instant sort of contrast. It also helps too to unify everything. Okay, I'm having a hard time seeing my pencil line here. Remember, we don't want those corners or ends of our ellipse to start looking pointy. So I want to make make sure I keep that shape. Zoom out a little bit here. Now the inside of this cup's definitely going to get darker. But that'll help just get it kind of set up. And again, I'm going to continue to kind of ignore my rim. So I'm just going to leave it alone. Now I'm not going to necessarily put this medium color everywhere where there isn't paint right now. Again, I'm not going to make too big of a deal out of stuff blending or not blending in right now. I'm just trying to block stuff in. Now remember what I said, guys. If you're one of those people who really wants to learn how to draw and be more accurate, practice is the key. And really, your best practice is just with some simple objects that you know everybody has around their house. You'll see constantly in even college drawing programs, you know, they're referring to these type of objects all the time. I mean, there isn't a time when it's not a good idea to practice with these simple objects. So I don't care if you've been making art for 50 years, you know, painting and drawing an egg or a cup is going to be helpful. You know, it's a practice. It's constant practice. You never stop. Always go back to the fundamentals. Now, if you notice on my cup, I'm kind of doing something weird here in the middle of it. This is where the bend in my cup happens. That was where that middle ellipse was, and it's where there's a form change. So I want to make sure that I can show that form change. And one of the things that you'll notice is that anytime you have a form change, there should be a value change. And so what I've noticed is that there's a little bit of a highlight kind of on top of that value or that form change. So that's just what I'm kind of playing with. You know, am I there yet? Absolutely not. Just trying to figure it out. Again, make sure you're taking your time around your edges and stuff so you can keep things nice and clean. think I kind of have that lime green on there. Need to work on my handle. And again, I'm looking at the shapes that the values are making. This is what's going to make it look like it has form. I'm not really looking at this and thinking, oh, here's the handle. I'm looking at the handle and thinking, oh, look at how long that shape is, and look at how wide that one is, and where this one connects to that one. Those are the things that I'm paying attention to. So really, for me, it's not a handle. It's a bunch of shapes that are connected. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, the next step, again, notice how my rim is completely left alone. It's just a blank space. The next thing is then to go into my dark. So I'm going to go in and start working on the dark. So I'm going to grab that dark green that I created. I think I need to actually make a little bit more. Seems like it's just kind of drying out a little bit. Again, we're going to use our colors complement to darken. Not necessarily black. Black's going to gray out your colors. Just like what we talked about on the oil pastel project. All right. So now I'm just going to kind of go back to where I started, which was the inside of the cup. I probably have a little too much paint on my brush here. I'm going to try to make it work. I'm kind of working in sections. And I think, too, by kind of working in sections, you're going to keep everything from just kind of blurring together or becoming a big blob. You know, so even the body of my cut, I'm kind of treating the top part of it as a separate shape or section than the bottom of it. Even though there isn't like a line or anything that really separates the two pieces, but they are two different forms, so I want to treat them differently for that reason. And so all we're going to do today is really kind of work on just establishing, you know, a light, a medium, and a dark value for right now. And we'll expand upon it later. I am kind of working on the blending here a little bit. And again, I'm going to look at the shape that I see each one of these values make. So I'm just kind of working on the inside of my cup. Just playing around with these shapes. Kind of going back and forth between my medium and my light. Okay, so I'm going to kind of leave the inside alone. I'll come back to it later. Don't want that. Now, whenever you have to remix a batch of color or a batch of something, I never get too wrapped up into making it a perfect match to what I originally had. My goal is really just to get close. And if I can get close, I can make it work. And so that's what I'm working with right now. More green. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. Again, when I add new colors, I kind of overlap them. So I'm working on just the bottom part of my cup. So we're just dealing with our lights, mediums, and our darks right now. And inadvertently, as you kind of work with these three values, you will mix them together and actually make more. Okay, so I have a start on the bottom of the cup. Get that curve. I'll work on this part. Not yet. Now there's always going to be parts of your cup that are going to be kind of like problem areas. And I'm having a problem right now with this part right here. Trying to get this to kind of work out. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to kind of walk away from it for a few minutes and then, try to attempt it at another point, which I think I probably need to do. I'm going to start working up here, or maybe I'll work on the handle. So again, I'm breaking this up really into 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections, so I'm not really treating it as all one object. Again, it's going to look really kind of choppy, blocky at the beginning of it, and that's normal. And really, for some of these shapes that some of the shapes that these values are making, it is very kind of defined. So not all of these shapes are meant to blend in. Now, anytime I need to kind of paint a tight area, I try not to have a lot of paint on my brush, and that helps out a lot to just have a lot of control. Shape's giving me some problems. So again, look at how I've chopped up my handle in a bunch of different shapes. This is what's going to help me to make it look three-dimensional. So I just ask myself, is it a light, medium, or dark? Okay, get that plugged in. It's going to look really choppy to begin with, and then I'll go in and I'll refine stuff later. But I got to get started. So just keep working on establishing a good value structure here with the 3 values that you created. I'm probably going to be leaving this rim alone for just a little bit while longer, and I may not even address this today. And again, I don't know. I'm going to play it by ear. I actually feel like I'm making more of my dark up than I have any other color, which is kind of surprising to me. Again, if you guys run out of any paint, just feel free to go up and get a little bit more. You don't need to get a ton. So you can always add more to your palette later. Again, when I am blending, I go back and forth between using just a clean brush and a brush with paint on it. Just depends on what I need. But when I am blending, I'm not pushing down really hard on my brush. I'm going over that area very, very, very lightly. So keep working, keep puggling away. Again, painting's a lot like cleaning up your room. It's got to look worse before it gets better. So keep plugging away at it. It's a process. It's not going to look finished the first 20 minutes that you work on it. You just have to keep working. Figure things out, make mistakes. The only way you're going to learn. I mean, I'm just going back and forth between areas, just being like, oh, that's too light, that's too dark. I missed that shape, bring that shape back. I'm going back and forth between different parts of the cup, the 4 parts of the cup that I'm working on. All right, I want you guys to keep going. We have a few more minutes here. I'm going to give you guys. I do think my painting probably needs a really good dry. There's of course a lot of little areas that I see kind of need to be tidied up. And just even some areas I just need more layers. It's just not completely painted in yet. And then of course I have the rim that I haven't painted yet. Said that I'm keep going. All right, so I promise I'm going to stop this time. So the next time I'm going to deal with the rim and probably the cash shadow too. So I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to let you guys work for the last few minutes that we have here, and then we will continue on our next class.